What up, good people? We are back. So, look, 5 things we're going to hit on today. One, the unfortunate truth when it pertains to the big whiskey company we're all familiar with, Uncle Nearest and Fawn Weaver and their leadership. Two, Seattle Seahawks. So, 9.6 billion valuation, roughly about $10 billion. We're going to unpack that sale that just happened. Over the last 12 months, there's been a lot happening in regards to big tech and AI. Four, the financial advisor shortage. And so that kind of caught me off guard. And then number 5, ESPN. I stumbled across this earlier, I want to say the past couple of weeks, and I want to bring it to y'all's attention to get your feedback. So you know what time it is. Tell a friend. We about to jump in. All right. What up, good people? We are back for another incredible episode of the Planning Podcast. Now, you may say, what?
2-bedroom house down the hood in Mobile.
And so those early growing, all those guys decided that weekend that collectively, this is what they were going to do.
What's up, Coop? What's up, big dog? Great.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Y'all subscribe, stay tuned, and of course, stay planning. All right, y'all. So as I mentioned, every week we got billions of dollars that move in deals. And so we're going to be talking about a number of issues, but also opportunities for us to be able to grow today. So today we're going to be talking about money, of course, but also ownership, leverage, equity. So mentioning, and as you could see within the thumbnail here, the beautiful face of Fawn Weaver. She's done an incredible job from a leadership standpoint, but there's blind spots in all of them. So we're going to see what's been happening around this whiskey company. Also, this $9.6 billion sale and what actually drives the NFL team values. What Wall Street is really saying about this AI trade and why financial advisors might be one of the most AI resistant jobs in the country. And then a fresh look at who actually owns ESPN now, and then including, some of the media giant folks that we've never heard of. And then how that is also playing a role in where and how NIL is evolving. So before we dive in, and let me make sure you can see me when I say this, when I read it. This is not financial advice. This is not personalized financial advice. We're going to be talking about the market a little bit today. So this is just for educational purposes. All right. So I just want to make sure we can look at each other and come to that understanding. All right, so when we think about this Uncle Nearest collapse and timeline, a few things I want to point out. So in 2017, Keith and Fawn Weaver founded Uncle Nearest. In 2022, sales hit $100 million, and they were awarded a few awards in regards of being a American whiskey company 3 years running. July 22 to August 2023, this is when things get a little shaky. So the CFO that was there, Michael Senzaki, I believe, this is how you say his last name. He allegedly submits 28 separate credit draws to lender Farm Credit Mid-America, totaling $67 million without the Weaver's knowledge. That's a problem. 2024, he leaves from the company. If I find that out, it's time to go, my brother, and we're going to have some issues. August of 2025, Farm Credit sues over $108 million in defaulted loans. So they're suing Uncle Nearest for $108 million of loans that they have not been able to pay on. And then in that same time frame, August of 2025, the court places the company into receivership. We'll talk about that here shortly, under Philip Young Jr. January 2026, the Weavers, they sue Senzaki, directly alleging fraud, forgery, and a breach of fiduciary duty. July 7th, the receiver himself files a counterclaim against Farm Credit, alleging the lender ignored obvious fraud red flags and revealing that Senzaki admitted to investigators that he falsified reports and used misappropriated funds for a Las Vegas home, vehicles, and gambling. July 10th, those same filing discloses that the receiver actually terminated Fawn and Keith Weaver's employment effective back in June 1st of this year. And so now the company is being prepped to be sold to actually a Black-owned investment firm. I think I actually heard something about them. I watched the interview pending the judge's approval. All right. So now that we went through this timeline, I want to get into a term you hear a lot about in this segment, and it is receivership, right? So, in plain English, receivership is when a court steps in and hands control of a company to a neutral court appointed outsider called a receiver, because the business can't pay its debts and the people involved can't be trusted for some whatever reason to sort it out themselves. So, think about this like a court appointed babysitter. And this is for a company that is in trouble, but more so financial trouble. So, nobody in the fight gets to make big decisions anymore. Now the court appointee does. Really important, just to want to make sure that we make that distinction. All right, receivership ultimately is just kind of like a little babysitter. I don't want to say a little babysitter; it's a big deal, but someone to be able to step in and run the business because for whatever reason there has been a lack of trust displayed. So I wanted to check in something that, of course, I've had some experience into in regards of being a board member. So those that know, I've sit on and also sat on some very prestigious boards with a great amount of responsibility. Any board you sit on, you're going to have that responsibility. So I was curious, like, all right, was there a board involved? Because when there are transactions or there are we'll just say certain aspects of the operations that need an extra level of oversight, there's this thing called bylaws that give guidance and really the rules of the company, and allows the board members and the board of directors to be able to provide oversight, insight, and expertise, but also put some guardrails in place to make sure that they don't get themselves in trouble. So let me just read this really quickly. So I wanted to see if there was an independent board of directors, because typically in a number of organizations that I work with and was a part of, to where you need more than one signature to be able to get certain things approved. And that, of course, is very important. So when we think about, this independent board, as of right now, this is what the public record actually shows. So Uncle Nearest Inc. is privately held, majority owned by Grant Sidney Incorporated, which is Fawn Weaver's own holding company. I could not find any public record of Uncle Nearest itself having an independent board with outside members or bylaws, or even requiring some type of, we'll just say, dual sign-off process, because usually it's tied to a threshold. Anything over $250,000, we need more than one person to not only look at this, approve this, share the why behind it, what you're doing with this money, and how you're going to be able to pay it back. But again, that dollar amount, it should trigger more than one person checking it out. So this is different from Fawn Weaver's, real board seat at Endeavor Group Holdings, a separate public company alongside people like Elon Musk. That's like a real board seat where you sit with other folks and provide expertise. So this is exactly the kind of structure that makes a story like this possible. Because typically an independent board would set bylaws requiring two signatures above $250K or a certain dollar amount, even as low as $50,000. Or even board approval. Hey, all 19 of us, all 17 of us, all 15, 13, 11 of us, we have to all come to an agreement before we can even bring on this new debt. So that single control could have actually stopped 28 draws on one signature. Because one thing to have growth is incredible. If you don't have the governance to go alongside of it, that's how $100 million lending relationship turns into a receivership. And then from a just a comparison, standpoint, wanted to make sure that we point this out, because the story gets twisted, because one looks at the leader of the company in regards of Fawn Weaver being the CEO and the face of the company. But the issue was actually, as I mentioned in the timeline, the CFO, Michael Sinzaki. So he ran 28 separate credit draws from $67 million. $67 million. Get a little FaceTime with that, without the Weaver's knowledge. So the good thing about this for the Weaver's case is that he admitted to it. So he admitted it to the investigators that he falsified reports and used the company's money on a Las Vegas house, cars, and gambling. So the CFO major risk, created a lot of the tension and the issues that they're dealing with now. But also want to make the distinction in regards of like the receiver's role, right? So the CFO, issuer, he's an issue, an employee of the company historically found the falsified documents, found the misuse of and the misappropriation of those dollars, and he's in trouble. He got some problems he's dealing with. Now the receiver, the person that is stepping on behalf of those that ran the day-to-day operations, of course, he is a court appointed individual, but he's not a villain by default, right? His job is literally to act as a neutral fiduciary and protect whatever value is left of the company for everyone in the stake. Because in this outcome, if the value of the company is protected or at least increased, that's good for the Weavers. So the latest filing shows that the Weaver now is fighting on the Weaver side of the fraud narrative, going after the lender for missing those red flags. Because we don't want to forget that this lending company, they allowed this process to go 28 different transactions to happen, 28 different times in which he drew down on a credit. They earned an additional $400,000 in revenue. So when we think about what is the incentive of this particular company and why they would approve these things, knowing that it was just one person drawing down off of these credit requests, they are on the back end are looking at, let's look at how much revenue we are generating based off of these different transactions. And so something that just, let's make sure that we point that out as we rock and roll. All right. So, this is how the story broke. Fawn Weaver, once branded the People CEO, fired from the company that she built. Then, when you think about the plot twist in itself, the receiver, Philip Young Jr., is turning around and suing the lender. And then, of course, you have the picture of the CFO here currently. And again, most folks may not even know his name or what he looks like. We all see the face of Fawn Weaver. And all of this, unfortunately falls into, one image from a Forbes cover calling her the Uncle Nearest godmother of $1 billion whiskey brand to a company now that is fighting for survival in court. So there's a number of ways in which we can unpack this. I think the biggest thing is that, again, as we think about growth, not only of companies that we may own, companies that we may be an employee of, or even your household growth of your assets and the things that are valuable to you. Because again, an asset, sorry for again, back to back, delete. But assets are something that is a value that could either increase a value or generate income, right? And so even as a family, as you grow, how many dependents you have, as you grow your 401k account, as you grow the assets you have, let's make sure that growth comes with governance, right? So the governance for you may be estate planning, but also a spreadsheet that gives direction for all the dollars that are coming into your business, your household, your organization. And so as you anticipate growth, and you may not have growth at the time, but let's try to implement best practices around governance, because that's going to essentially let you know when you are out of bounds. And it's tough to do that whenever you don't have the resources immediately. But this is a great time to start thinking about it and start doing some research on what would be best practices, even prior to it happening. All right, y'all, let's keep rock and rolling. This is what we got. So since we last talked, this is no longer a rumor. It is a group that is led by Vinod Kosh. Led by a group with V and a K. Just hit me on my messages to share with me the proper enunciation. But they've agreed to buy the Seattle Seahawks for $9.6 billion. So this has been confirmed by ESPN as of July 14. That's just shy of the Lakers' record $1 billion sale, and it obliterates the previous NFL record set by the Commanders at $6.05 billion. All right, here's the actual reporting that the limited partner in the 49ers, the lead buyer on the deal, has done. That's that, again, with this now being done, is no longer speculative. So we're gonna break this down a little bit. So as you can see, coach-led group, they buy the Seahawks. It's a real thing, and it is now happening. So let's break down that number, because again, as we even think about see the NFL, we see these different games, and there's probably even games that we've gone to ourselves. We usually don't see what is the business model of the NFL. One of the incredible opportunities we were able to have, make sure you check out the interview with the former executive director of the NFL Players Association, DeMar Smith. I want to say it was almost 15 years that he was there. So negotiating the contracts and understanding the business model of the NFL was imperative for him to be able to do his job at a high level. So definitely check that out to get into a lot of the details, but also some of the nuances that you wouldn't anticipate at that particular level. So what actually makes up a $9.6 billion NFL team? So there are two buckets. Bucket one is a shared league revenue. So this is split roughly equally across all 32 teams. The biggest piece is national media rights. NFL deals with CBS, NBC, Fox, ESPN, and Amazon, worth close to $110 billion over 11 years combined, divided by 32 ways. So bucket two is local, team-specific revenue. So stadium naming rights, luxury suites, sponsorships. Little buddy on the side, hey, parking's $35. Parking. You add both those buckets plus what a buyer pays for scarcity and prestige, you get a number like 9.6 billion. Now, D. Smith, who I just mentioned, the brother you can see on the screen there, the former NFLPA executive director, almost 15 years, has pointed to a 1961 law called the Sports Broadcasting Act as a real foundation of the NFL's financial empire. It gives the NFL an antitrust exemption. All 32 teams can legally pool and sell broadcast rights together instead of competing against each other. That shared pool is a huge reason every franchise, even a mediocre one, is worth $1 billion. So, quick recap. That's why some of the trash teams that you see that hasn't won anything, they're able to still generate revenue because of this 1961 act that allows them to not compete against each other when it pertains to making money, but they can complement each other and act as one. That's very, very, very unique. So the NFL pulled in over $23 billion in total revenue last year, up more than 14%, targeting $25 billion in 2027. That growth plus the scarcity of only 32 franchises ever existing is exactly why we've seen the Lakers at $10 billion, the Celtics at $6.1 billion, the Commanders at $6 billion, and now the Seahawks at $9.6 billion. This is actually a piece making DeMar Smith's point that the NFL's antitrust exemption might be the single most important, least discussed piece of its business model. Least discussed. Shout out D. Smith. Appreciate you coming to Birmingham. It was an incredible interview. We all enjoyed it, brother. Looking forward to you coming back. All right, let's keep rolling. Now, as we look at this slide, I definitely wanted to point this out. The only person that made the NFL quiver, and again, got to keep shouting out D. Smith. He continues to do the work. Make sure you follow him as he continues to shed light to truth on the areas that have been in the dark. All right. Shout out to the Compound and Friends. Shout out to Downtown Josh Brown. There was a recent episode talking about something very, very important. They sat down with Datatrix, Nick Colas, and Jessica Rabe, who laid out something every investor needs to hear. Amazon, Alphabet, and Meta are now pouring 100% or more of their cash into AI infrastructure spending. I feel like everybody doing it. And margins are expected to decline as a result. So these three companies alone make up 11% of the S&P 500. But this was the biggest takeaway. If you have a 401k or target date fund, you almost certainly own a slice of these three companies without realizing how concentrated that bet has become. So your diversified index fund might be less diversified than you think. All right. So compare that concentrated 401k exposure to what actual diversification looks like: cash, equities, real estate, collectibles, crypto, spread across genuinely different asset classes. That's the contrast I want you holding in your head. Concentrated bets dressed up as diversified funds versus true diversification from asset types that don't all move together. So just flagging the reality that as the market is shifting into this tech, AI, we'll just say craze, be sure to take a peek at your portfolio to make sure that as more of these, especially these three companies make up 11%, as just mentioned, as they eat more into the share of that particular performance, just make sure that you reach out to the professional that you're working with, licensed professional that you're working with, to take a peek at what you currently have to ensure that it is moving in concert with your specific risk tolerance. All right, y'all, let's keep rolling. All right, so interesting enough, so shout out Josh Brown again. So they had Rick Edelman on, founder of Edelman Financial Engine. So there is about 300,000 financial advisors in the US right now. And roughly 40% of them are expected to retire within the next decade. Edelman also made the case that financial planning may be it may be one of the most AI resistant professions out there. So this is actually part of the gap that we are looking to close. Even when we launched IMC Financial Consulting, one of the things that I saw is two verticals. The increase of the appetite of individuals that really want some type of insight and expertise to get guidance versus like transactional involvement. Hey, do this and I'll see you in 12 months. Like, no, I really want some insight. And then two, the role that technology was going to play in potentially enabling, we'll just say, more advisors to be more confident with what they're talking about, but also exposing households to information that advisors would typically hold to try to seem like they, you got to come to me for the information. Well, now things have changed. But one dynamic when you combine those two is the age of these advisors and the accounts in which they are servicing. And the issue which has been pointed out is that you have a good bit of these advisors that are in their, we'll just say 60s, 70s, and even 80s that have been doing it for 30 plus years. That have is coming to the end of the road. So over the next 10 years, it's going to open up a huge opportunity for more people to get into the industry, which is why it's important for platforms like we have with the IMC Financial Freedom Project to introduce the language of money to students at a younger age so they can at least have a foundational understanding of how money works, how it can grow, how loans work, principal, interest, and term, what is compounding interest, what is a portfolio, what is the stock market. And so as they're able to not be so foreign with this terminology, now the job opportunities that may exist in the industry, they can now see themselves in the industry because the language isn't something that trumps them at the front door, right? It really just stops their every movement because they're like, yeah, I don't know what you mean. Alpha, is that a fraternity? Like, what are you talking about? So really, really good insight here in regards of the role technology is playing, but also just knowing that if you cannot sit across from a family and understand their fears and what financial freedom, really means to them, technology is not going to be able to replace that. A human has to play that role. And so this is why I feel like our role at IMC and the way in which we're implementing that is that we're building the next generation of financially literate young people now through our platforms, programs. And so really, really excited about that. So again, as we could see that 38% are expected to retire in the next decade. So there's going to be some opportunities out there for those that are thinking about the financial industry. All right, y'all, let's keep rolling. So this was something that I stumbled across. I want to say I may have been on a Facebook, and I saw something about Sports Center next, and all. It was just, it was a good bit going on. So I got very interested in, like, all right, what's going on with ESPN? What's going on with some of the ownership that's happening, especially as of recent. So as of February, the NFL actually became a part owner of ESPN. So in exchange of them handing over the NFL Network, Red Zone's pay TV rights, and its fantasy football program, the league took a 10% equity stake in ESPN. And I'm going to connect this here shortly, putting a $30 billion valuation on the network. Disney holds 72%, Hearst holds 18%, and now the NFL holds that 10% slice. Now, this isn't just about the content licensing deal. It's actually a very interesting alignment of incentives. So the NFL now directly benefits when ESPN's streaming business grows, and the ESPN gets NFL Network, Red Zone, and 28 games a season, feeding its direct-to-consumer platform, including its first ever Super Bowl broadcast, which will happen in 2027. All right, but real quick pause. I was like, Hearst, 18%. Who is that? So Hearst, so they became well, I'll just say this. Most people haven't heard of the name. I didn't hear about the name until I did this research. So Hearst Communication is a massive American media conglomerate, founded all the way back in 1887. Now, when I saw that, I was like, well, it's starting to make a little sense. But founded back by publishing tycoon William Randolph Hearst. Here's the part that surprises people. Hearst doesn't own any equity in Disney overall. It holds specific targeted stakes in individual Disney-controlled media assets, 20% of ESPN directly, and it's a 50-50 partner with Disney's in A&E Global Media, which owns A&E, Lifetime, the History Channel. And unlike Disney, Hearst is still a private, family-owned company to this day. This is a great lesson in how modern media ownership actually works. It's rarely one parent company owning everything outright. It's a web of targeted joint ventures, minority stakes, deal by deal, asset by asset. Stuff's always moving. Hearst picked its spot in sports and cable, stayed private, and quietly became a partial owner of one of the most valuable media properties in the world without even putting its own name on the marquee. Interesting. Let's keep going. All right. Now, just to ground this is ESPN's actual site right now, covering everything from the Open Championship to the NFL to breaking news. This is the scale of the platform that Disney, Hearst, and now the NFL have a stake in. Now let's get into, again, it got me going through a little bit of research. Like, okay, cool, I see what's happening. Then I see this post on Facebook. I think I saw it on Facebook and Instagram. So dug into it. This isn't a college NIL deal at all. So as you can see it, let me go ahead and make this full screen for you. So as you can see it, this is actually ESPN itself through its youth sports sub brand Sports Center Next. So this whole time I was on Instagram, and I even looked at Facebook, and I've seen Sports Center Next a few times. Like I've seen a few times of it post like some good information. I was like, okay, that's cool, but it must be a fake page, right? They're just making a play on the name Sports Center, put Next on it. You don't know who it is, you don't know who owns it, and now they're getting likes, comments, and engagement. Then I see, I'm like, hey, they got a number of followers. Then I see them talking about this particular deal to where it says that Sports Center Next is directly signing 2 high school basketball players Kalina Smith, shout out to you, #1 ranked girls on the SportsCenter Next 100, and then Beckham Black, the #2 ranked boys player, to merchandise deals. And I'm like, SportsCenter Next, there's no way they're affiliated with ESPN and SportsCenter. There's no way. Like that it don't even make sense. Let's keep digging into it. So, as we can see here, it's a real thing. So SportsCenter Next has been covering high school prospects at scale, which is exactly the pipeline these merchandising deals plug into. SportsCenter Next is a wholly owned SportsCenter Next is a wholly owned by ESPN, same ownership structure, Disney, Hearst, and now indirectly the NFL. So the same company that covers high school recruiting rankings is now also the same company signing the top ranked players to merchandising deals. Let me run that back because I stuttered a little bit. SportsCenter Next is a wholly owned, stuttering Stanley. SportsCenter Next is wholly owned by ESPN. It's gonna be clean right here. Same ownership structure of Disney, Hearst, and now indirectly the NFL. So the same company that covers high school recruiting rankings is now also the company signing top ranked players to merchandising deals. That's the media company becoming a direct financial participant in the athletes it covers before they've even reached college. So for anyone building a personal brand, this is the next chapter. It's moving from who covers me to who's already invested in me commercially. Now, is this something that is fair? Who knows? Are they leveraging the current state of policy, business, and opportunities? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what capitalism looks like. And we're going to use our capital to try to make sure that we position ourselves to maximize that capital based off of the opportunities that we see in the market. And if you don't have the capital, boo-hoo. All right. Unfortunately, that's the truth. But I did see that as a very unique advantage for them to have all this data, the rankings, the insight, the interests of colleges and universities, and to be able to leverage this data and to be able to broker deals for these athletes. That's a crazy advantage that they have. It's smart, to be honest. Like if just from a business standpoint, it's actually a very smart move to make. Yeah, there's just there's a few thoughts that I have. I'm gonna keep to myself. We'll bring on some folks to be able to talk about it, but very interesting, and definitely check them out. Let's see what's going on there. All right, as we close on up, one thing I want to make sure that we talk about is essentially what we've been able to break down today. So Uncle Nearest, the Seahawks, this big tech AI bet, the advisor shortage, ESPN and Hearst. At their core, these are all stories about growth. And I want to leave with you how I think about growth because it applies to whether you're talking about your neighborhood, your community, or even your portfolio. Here is the distinction I want you to sit with. So GDP is a consumption barometer, right? Gross domestic product. It is 70% of the GDP is tied to consumer spending, right? It shows where money is going out. About 70% of America's GDP is tied to consumer spending specifically. The stock market is different. Y'all remember when we talked about the K-shaped economy and how there are those that own assets in which they are able to participate in the market's growth and the things that have that are valuable, that are assets in their growth. But unfortunately, those that are in the lower income aspect, they are not able to participate in that. More so, their discretionary dollars are being eaten up into because of inflation and the cost of living. But as we talk about that K-shaped economy, I wanted to specifically point out that the GDP is really a reflection of consumption. The stock market is different. The stock market is a reflection of production, all right, of the actual companies being built right here in the United States, inside something like the S&P 500. So when you ask why the stock market and the economy can feel so disconnected from each other, that's exactly why. One measures what we're spending, the other measures what we're building. And here's a lesson for your life that we can take to our family, our neighborhood, and the people who build wealth are the ones who take a portion of their dollars that they are consuming and redirect it in toward asset building activity, toward ownership, even home ownership, business ownership, toward production, growth in your neighborhood, growth in your community, growth in your portfolio. It all starts with the same shift from consuming to owning. All right. Very, very important. First, we got to have that mindset shift. As we all know, what we're building here at the Financial Freedom Project is something, and even at IMC Financial Consulting, which owns the Financial Freedom Project, is really what this podcast is for, is to break down things that may be complex in a way in which you can digest it, right? And so one quick thing I do want to make sure that I want to go back to something that I said, but give you a visual. This is not financial advice. All right. So everything covered in this episode, valuations, ownership breakdowns, market data, and commentary. This is just for education and discussion purposes only. It is not personalized financial investment, tax, or legal advice, and shouldn't be the sole basis for any financial decisions. Always consult a licensed professional about your own situation. You may say, man, Isaac, why you got to say that? Because we're on the way up. And we don't need any issues impacting our ability to continue to bring this information to you, because we're going to keep bringing it, and we're bringing, we're getting a lot of good feedback from the information as well. So shout out to all of our subscribers. Make sure you share this with a friend. We've got some really, really cool interviews coming up. Again, make sure you check out that Roy Johnson interviews, dope interview. We're getting a lot of great feedback about that. Incredible leader in his own outright. I don't even know if I said that right, but incredible leader. But again, thank you all for your time today. Make sure you subscribe, stay tuned, and of course, stay planning.